Hello, everyone. Welcome to Drop In. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you all. We're about to get ready. Let everyone sink in. It is 7 p.m. in Central European time. It's morning in some other parts of the world where you're joining from. So I suggest we are getting the show on the road. Yes, the QA is working. Thank you, Jonas from Switzerland. Very nice. Use the QA, drop in who you are, where you are calling from. Would love to hear who we have in the room today. That's awesome. Welcome, everyone, for another episode of Redefining Journey Management. Today, big one, we're launching Journey AI at TheyDo. So we thought, let's do it together. And instead of having external guests, I'm having internal guests. So with me today are Martin, who's my co-founder, who's currently running everything that is about the customer in our company. And we have Justas, and probably both of you have been talking to many people that are joining us today. Justas is our product manager on the LAN team, and basically his team, together with the rest of the company, has made this all possible. All right, what that all is, let's go in today. We call it Journey AI, and as you probably have seen, it already appears in your workspace. For those who have used TheyDo before, it is there. So I'm going to set the stage a little bit for what we're going to do today. Then we're going to zoom out, and there's plenty of room for live QA. But if you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to put them in the QA. We'll make sure that we can answer them as we go. We'll make sure that we have those answers in the Q&A for the last 20 to 15 minutes of this session. Everything is recorded, so sit back, relax, and let's get the show on the road. So why are we here today? Big moment. We are globally rolling out Journey AI, and it's a first of a kind, really, because for some of you who have been here in December, November, when we announced we were about to do this, I don't know if you remember, we said okay, we're going to do a 4-stage rocket of Journey AI. And I've not even defined it. I realize that. I will do that in a second. But we're going to do four-stage rockets. First, let's do the basics. Okay, blank canvas. Let's generate some journey template for us, and let's do it. Very nice, very good, very great. But what about analyzing and mapping your insights and really understanding your research? Can we do that? That's what we're going to talk about today. We launched it in December, early access. So all of you who have had early access, thank you for building with us. But we also said, let's do a little bit more. In our closed beta, let's talk about getting all these different types of data into your journeys, not just generate one, but really work on massive insights and building this out. And then the last piece, and this is also what we're going to peek in today, is what about source journeys? What if you have hundreds of journeys building up to the bigger picture? What about your opportunities? How would you enable your organization to basically do one thing really well? And that is to become a journey mapper without a service design, a user experience, or a research background. So journeys are important, and Journey AI is actually making it really easy to get started, but also for professionals to work faster and better. And that is what we're going to launch today, and we're going to talk all about it. But not before we zoom out. For those who are new to journey management, to TheyDo, I wanted to take a step back. It's why are we doing this in the first place? What is going on in the world? And I will also have Martin and Justas share a little bit back what they have learned. But let me set the stage and then dig in. Martin, Justas, you ready?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. Remember this guy? And his name was Henry Ford. We all know this story, right? If I would ask what people want, they would say faster horses. And lo and behold, he created a car. But what he also did, because Henry Ford was truly customer-centric in a way, but he also did one other thing. He said they can have any color in the world as long as it's black. So since mass-scale manufacturing, we have been struggling with customer centricity. In the 50s, we had Peter Drucker come along. I don't know if you all know him. He was very famous management consultant. And he said, there is only one valid definition of business purpose, to create a customer. But then he went on, and therefore, the business has two functions, marketing and innovation. But today we know that that is like very naive way of thinking about it. We have CX, we have digital, we have engineering, we have product, we have service, we have operations. We have all these different layers, all these different business silos that need to work on the customer experience together. And the result is, even if you give them the mandate to be customer-centric, I mean, if you look at any annual statement of a large company, there is something around customer centricity in the core pillars, in the core strategy. So what happens is that all these different business silos say like, yeah, we're customer-centric. But is that really true? Maybe on their scale they are, but are they connecting the dots? And I think that was the big insight that led us to start TheyDo in the first place. So like, we are running around in circles. The only thing we have is that we're running around in circles. We have all these different departments with dashboards, tools, whiteboards, meetings, endless tools to capture our thoughts, to capture the customer experience and to align. But what if there's just one thing that we can all agree on that is important? And that is where the customer journey comes in. So the customer journey is the one thing that all these different teams and all these different stakeholders across the vertical axis in the business can align on. So with TheyDo, we said, okay, we're going to make the journey the most powerful business tool there is. So there are two problems with that. One is that, okay, we need to bring everything together in one place. And I think over the last 2 years, we've done a phenomenal job in building tools to do that. But the second thing is you want to have high quality journeys for every little part of the experience. And that is what Journey AI is about to unlock. So without further ado, maybe just to hear back from what is actually going on, because we have not built this alone. We have not built this fast. We haven't said like, hey, let's do the basic stuff. Like, let's summarize, let's get a bunch of like quick hacks in, like many have built on top of things like GPT. But we actually took a step back and we went to work with you, with service designers, with researchers, with UX people, with people that are working on the customer experience every day to really hone in on their experience. So Martin, you've been doing this for 15 years, even way before we started this product company. You've been at the forefront of customer-centric transformation work for almost a decade. What is so hard about using the journey as the most powerful business tool there is? Like, paint a picture for us.
Well, thank you for the stage and for the question. I mean, look, one thing I think most of us who are working with journeys for a while, back in the days, it was, of course, brown paper rolls and Post-its. And of course, you had to note that down. They were falling down all the time. That just was a problem. That was one of the problems. We said like, yeah, we can digitize this, right? But that is not the problem, I think, about like understanding people's handwritings and so forth. It's rather more that the journey normally starts to be old as soon as it has been created, right? It takes so long to actually create a great journey, to gather all the different sort of insights from different sources. It can be a workshop, it can be interviews, it can be surveys, whatever. And then someone normally, or maybe a team of two maybe, would get together and start to puzzle everything. It's like, you know, there's that big puzzles that you have on a table with 1,000 pieces, and you need to just start to find, you know, the patterns, colors, you know, organized structure, everything. But it's not only about, you know, what actually every single source is saying, but also how many times they have been repeated, you know, clustering them together, giving them weights, going back and validating them again. And you know, did we understand it right? And once you have everything in place, you then have this beautiful one picture that you probably very, very proud of, and you put it up on the wall, and then it hangs there. And it is very, very normally large and very sort of has a lot of data in it. But how do you break it down? How do you make it modular? How do you share it with others? How do you take something that you discovered and in a kind of context way, move it around and get people involved, and then add their feedback into that one journey that you just made? So that whole process, you know, in a very simple way, I would give it an estimation of 40 hours to go from a good sort of source of insights into a good journey that you truly can work with. And of course, that can be sped up now in Miro and so forth. But something we are seeing a lot of is that you have different type of journeys in different formats in Miro, in Lucid, in Mural, and so forth. And everyone is trying their hardest. But what you just showed, Jochem, was like, they do it from their perspective. So I have the IT team doing our journey about our problem we are solving and so forth. And then maybe marketing does theirs and support does theirs. And then how do you lap them together into one coherent sort of story? Very, very hard. And if you manage to do that, how do you then bring it back to those who were not there and did the process? So, it's not only the craft of creating a journey, but actually working with the journey, updating the journey, making it not an artifact, but a living, breathing document. And that is something we realized with TheyDo was something we needed fixing. So we introduced Journey AI, and I remember first time we showed it to some of our customers. Literally, you could create back in our beta version took around say 10 minutes to get one or two transcripts made. Now it goes even faster. But some people were like, "Oh my God, I will lose my job." There were literally researchers who spontaneously just said that, out loud. And there were a very funny moment where one of the researchers lead said, "Don't worry about it. We have much more important things for you to do, because now you can actually start working with journeys at scale and start to organize, structure them, and see them as a living, breathing, document that you can update ongoingly based on what we actually identify and what kind of data we have available." And that is what we're seeing. We're seeing actually that this way of working with journeys is not something you do occasionally, but you now do it frequently. And that is something that was previously not possible. Another thing that is really interesting is that I've got a lot of information from different customers as well, is that we can't truly trust all type of journeys we actually have, because when people map journeys, no pun intended, you normally add a bit of a flavor to it, right? You interpret it. There is always this human bias layer that you want to maybe make it look good, or maybe a local representative wants to spice it up a little bit into their sort of benefit, and global doesn't know about it. But what you get when you work with Journey AI is that if you can get to the source of the truth, i.e. the transcript itself, or the survey, or the NPS numbers, whatever, and you feed it into the AI engine, AI is not biased. It actually gives you the truth in a very nice contextual way that actually is pure. And another one that is coming, I will not hint too much about it, is also, interpretation of opportunities and personas and so forth. And now AI is able to replicate that you have a persona profiles based on the data we have been feeding it right with. And the same goes for journeys and so forth. So besides the time benefit, of course, going something that took maybe 40 hours, give and take on average, say, can be, maybe even more or a little bit less. But say now you can do that with a few clicks or minutes. You earn so much more time to actually do what matters the most. It's collaboration, sharing, experiences in a contextual way with others who are not there, and really collaborate about opportunities that are now spotted in an objective kind of way. So I'm super, super excited about it.
Really
I can
nice.
feel
So
a lot of different other things, sorry, but that will be the key things I think we see the benefit of right now. Yeah.
Nice. You've always been raving about it, like you were dubbed Mr. AI at some point in the company even. But if I zoom out, like what you're saying is true, right? We didn't say like, oh, let's jump on the bandwagon and go quickly, but actually rehashing the fundamental problems here is like getting closer to the source, remove human bias. That's one thing. I mean, staring at a blank canvas is scary, so that is something that you can overcome. Also, is not to say that the mapping process should be digitized entirely. There's a lot of value still in people figuring out like whatever I learned from my research, so doing that manually. But not all journeys are created equally. Some of our customers have hundreds, right? Some even over 1,000. So imagine everyone creating that rigorously through this way of working. Like it's almost impossible to do that. I want to ask a few questions on like the process, but just to come to the third problem, we said like that's the easy one. It's like it takes a lot of time. This is some data we get from Nielsen Norman Group, and I heard you refer to it, so I just want to give it some color. Like the mapping process itself to really like go from buy-in, from getting actually the mandate to do this process and collecting the business data, collecting the customer data, doing the research, like let's assume that part is still for the course. But the mapping itself, synthesizing the insights, like putting the pieces of the puzzle together, what you say, mapping it out, understanding the beginning and the end, like all of that, we said, okay, challenge accepted. Let's bring that 40 hours, 39 hours back to 4 minutes. And when it's that good, we're going to release it. And I think that was a challenge for Justas and his team. It was like, how are we going to do that? So maybe also to acknowledge some of the worries in the field, like Justas.
Can I just say one thing, and one last thing as well, an observation, is that many customers up to the moment we had launched Journey AI have a lot of inside out journeys, right? Because they don't have the time to actually, get out there, talk and so forth, and harvest that valuable information. They do assumption-based journeys that they actually treat as truth, right? But now, because we have Journey AI, they don't have to sit 40 hours and create those journeys, because if you work with data that you don't made up yourself based on sort of hunches, you now which, and such a journey doesn't of course take 40 hours to make. Now people are actually able to do validated journeys, and we start to see that the amount of journeys that are actually validated, also really outside-in journeys, are growing exponentially in TheyDo as well.
And just to clarify, like with outside in, you mean like taking the actual perspective of the customer, the user, the persona, the one who's actually getting to a goal, versus like, here's our process, and here's how we're like putting people through the process, and this is the touch points we have. That's the difference between outside and in.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, thanks.
Got it. So Justas, like, walk us through some of the things that like the early objections you got before we came to like solutions. I know we're going to go into demo and you're going to talk about how we came to the solution, but like you've been working with all these people like to get it right. Like, what is your impression on how researchers, service designers, UXers, but people in the trenches mapping out these journeys, but also using them? What are the things that stood out for you?
That's a very good question. Well, actually, I want to piggyback on what Martin said. I think as a product manager, I've been taught that the best thing we could build is a time machine, right? It's not about being lazy at the end of the day. It's more about freeing up the talents, the skill set that you have to do your work so much better and actually do more of what's valuable. So zooming in on that part, the first concern was, can it actually even do it, and do it faster? And we actually had to spend quite some time trying to figure out, what is the right workflow, what's the right process, to ensure that, so to speak, it can do it. And I think the best thing that we did, trying to be customer-centric ourselves, we were co-creating that process, learning from the best in the business, I have to say. I mean, we're so lucky to have companies who we can call our customers, and they were so gladly open to share their practices, their standards, and we just basically try to synthesize that and mimic a professional trying to do that job. Now, that being said, that touches on the second part, which is, can it be as good as that professional? And I'm going to venture out and say that, we're still ways away from there. I mean, I don't expect us to, jump in and replace a PhD, in service design or customer experience. Nevertheless, I think we ourselves trying to say that it is a very intelligent assistant that you have who has all the context that it needs to have, ensuring that at least it can do a fantastic first pass, so that you as the experts, you can jump in and actually do it better. And again, do more of it, bring in more insights, more research, rather than, at the end of the day, spend time on mundane menial tasks like moving cards around. So I think those were the two, can it even do it? Which I think we proved happily. The second one, how well it can do. And for us, that still is a significant benchmark. Every single week, we look into the quality, that is being outputted. And for us, that will remain the crux of our, initiative. We need to ensure that it can be as good as it can be. Otherwise, it makes no sense.
All right. Maybe we should just dig in, start looking at how it works. Will you be giving us a little bit of a demo, and then everyone who's tuning in, feel free to ask any questions. Well,
Sure.
Just so go from zero to journey, start adding insights, show us how it works and what the results will be.
Well, let's see. Let's see. And by doing this, I will tell you one more story, actually, from a customer of ours. So actually, when they started exploring Journey AI, they said, "Can it, again, to that point, can it do it as well as we can do?" They had two researchers taking the same exact source and trying to one tried mapping it fully manually, the other one actually fully used Journey AI. And to be honest, I'm gonna mimic that process. Doing it fully automated. I'm gonna do it completely trusting AI. And honestly, our takeaway there was that's what we heard from the customer. The manual approach was dropped midway because it's just so easy. So let's try and do that. So what I'm doing, actually, I have this BTC journey framework open with a bunch of nested journeys, and I already see adding Spotify to my subscription because it's a telco journey. So I'm going to do something that I myself enjoy, watching HBO, right? Because my telco provider actually offers that package. So let's say adding HBO to my subscription. And what it does, it allows me to already have it here embedded in the full context. And if I open it, then the first thing I can do essentially is just say, okay, let's just map with Journey AI. So what you see here is an empty field. And you can bring in your text-based research, either by copy pasting, drag and dropping, or actually what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a transcript here. I have a few sample ones. So let's say it's a tech-savvy persona. I'm going to tell
This will
it.
be your research then. So you've conducted research, like, yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, exactly. This is an interview, let's say, that I just had. And I need to tell AI that it is an interview, to be honest. Otherwise, it might start treating it differently. So there's still some curation here that you have to do. Name your research. You'll see in a second why it's important, but let's say tech savvy persona, it's for us basically to trace back and say that, it came from that particular source. In this step, you can actually select a persona, which in this case we already have in the workspace, and I just click to create a journey. And now what it's doing is exactly what I described, which is trying to mimic the typical trusted workflow of an actual researcher, actual journey mapper. And the first step is, of course, reading in depth and trying to understand the full context of that transcript. So it recognizes that, oh, it is telco related, so industry important. It's specifically about HBO and being considering to add that as part of my mobile plan. And once it's finishing reading it, it's trying to pluck out individual interesting and actionable quotes, and then putting them one next to each other. And for experts in the room, that should remind you of affinity mapping, and that's exactly what it's doing. It's trying to find thematic patterns, and that's what we're going to see, basically, the summaries of those particular quotes from this particular insight in just a second. And once it has those insights already, then the next step is actually to try and understand what is the logical sequence that those particular actions, pains, needs, gains appear in the context of a customer experience. In this case, again, adding HBO to my subscription. And once it identifies that linear structure, then the last step will be basically to put those insights in the corresponding place. And as you can see, it jumped over to journey steps, so this should no longer take that much time.
This is amazing. Like when we went into this demo prep for today, it's like, okay, it takes about 2 minutes. We can do it in 2 to 3. We're not sure. So why don't you do a little bit of the voiceover of what's going on behind the scenes? And you actually managed to cover it all while it did so. I didn't even have a timer on, so that's pretty amazing.
One quick question, Justas, on data. Like, obviously, the data is also safe. We did it enterprise ready, right? Maybe now, okay, maybe we can take that later. But the data is also safe. It's not shared with anyone in any kind of way as well.
No, that's actually a very important point. I'm happy you brought it up. Exactly. This data that is being processed by AI is not being used to train what is called the foundational model that we're using. And it is not being spread out or shared across the workspaces that we have. So this is fully insulated to your particular organization, and we really, really treat data security and privacy seriously at TheyDo, which is one of the reasons why I love working here.
So what have we got?
Well, let's check. I mean, it sounds fairly legit, I would say. So we have discovery phase, we have evaluation phase, we have purchase phase, we have post-purchase. I think those are solid. And then under discovery, we have seeking information. Under evaluation, assessing compatibility. I think those are fairly great. And what you see in this particular lane that we call insights, you see a bunch of cards, and these are needs, pains, observations. And I think because we specifically even dropped in a non-tech savvy persona, I'm not seeing a lot of a gain here, right? So probably this experience line represents this fairly well. There's quite a bit of negative experience happening here. And again, this is all coming from that transcript that we've just dumped in.
So what do we have? What is the sort of insights are obviously a summary of what the quotations are that the persona has actually mentioned, right?
Yeah, correct. So if I open up, let's say this particular needs, I seek seamless, user-friendly digital experiences, which is, I would say, fair enough for a non-tech savvy person. It's actually even mapped to two steps, which is really cool because we now see that it's a recurring theme, right? It's not just coming up on one particular phase. And if I just zoom in here, well, look at that. We have at least 9 quotes, that feed into that, let's call it summary, So I think if we look at those individual quotes, a user-friendly interface that learns from my viewing habits or compatibility with various devices, I think those are fairly well summarized, talking about that user-friendly digital experience. It's a fairly great needs with quite a lot of context here.
But the cool thing, I like the way you designed it with your team, is that like, okay, so we have this, but are we accepting this? I mean, we're building out a library of insights. Like, is this dumped into it immediately? I know the answer is no, but like, tell me about why this fail-safe is here in the first place.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, for us, it's very crucial that you would be in the driver's seat here, right? AI is just an assistant. So in this particular case, at the very bottom, you have an option to, we kindly ask you to rate the quality. That's crucial. So I'm going to say probably positive, even though I'm biased. But you can easily just click and delete everything. If I click on here, I mean, we're kindly ask you to maybe tell us what didn't work. But if you do this, everything gets purged immediately. Now, in this particular case, let's say everything's fine. So I'm going to say, I accept it, right? So those insights are now fully embedded in my insight library.
But you can also modify insights, right? So you can also go, before you accept, you can go in and say, I would like to rephrase this, or you could even remove one insight entirely if you don't like it or for whatever reason, and then accept the journey. And then your modifications that you made will then be the ones that are saved, right?
Well, absolutely. Because I mean, before I clicked accept, as you see, I already have this open. So if I decide to say, well, this maybe is not phrased well enough, I don't know, for some reason, let's say I really want an exclamation point here, right? I can easily do that. And as you can see, because I manually updated it, it no longer shows that it's, AI, identified by AI. That property disappears, which still remains here, where you can see identified with AI. So again, if there's some manual override, manual fixing, we listen to that, and then these updates, you can easily do them before you actually accept everything.
Nice. So I will open it up for a few questions because we have very few specific ones on this. I'll take the one from Matt. He asks, can a user upload multiple transcripts at once? I'd love to reduce bias to any one conversation by aggregating multiple.
I love that question because that can basically bring us to the next step in this process. Because one transcript is great, but probably there's another persona that we might look into, because we had a non-tech savvy one. All you need to do is just click here, Journey AI, and you see already a familiar interface, and I will click a different one. So in this case, a tech savvy persona. And look, I already have the journey. I have the side panel open on the contents that we already talked about. So I'm just going to basically bring this in. And by doing this, instead of creating a structure, I'm going to choose skeptical Theo, let's say, for this one. By doing this, I'm not touching the journey structure anymore, right? So those phases, they're established. I could update them if I want. And now I'm bringing in another conversation, another transcript. And this is basically going to update that journey. So by doing this, yes, you can bring in more transcripts, but you don't have to stop with transcripts. As we've just mentioned, if you have a bunch of Miro stickies or mural stickies or support tickets, which I do every Monday, to be honest, I just copy a bunch of support tickets we have. You can dump them in here, and AI will do its best to update the journey as we have it now.
What about if I have three interviews that I would like to make into a journey? Should I take all three transcripts and bake it into one that I then upload as my first sourced file, or should I do it 3 times what you're just doing now? What do you think is best?
I currently would recommend sequencing it. So you should do one by one, only because it's better. I mean, consider how you yourself would try to digest 3 potentially very distinct interviews, right? So AI is not that different from us. It's better if we have the focus on a particular source. So currently, it's still better to do it one by one, but of course, we're exploring how to make that even more seamless. So you could do it, batch, let's say.
Can I ask a question from Claudia? She says, and this is a good point to your explanation. Like, can you share with us how the transcript looks like? It must be quite structured to map it out so well. And maybe you can speak a few words on things that are not structured well and how you would handle that. Maybe you can share the transcript just for everyone to see. I know it's quite structured and it's well done. Obviously, for demo purposes, that's easy. But I also know that unstructured stuff works. How would you describe that to Claudia?
Yes, so let me open up it in the browser. So here you go. This is as raw as it can get, right? So it's basically just a conversation captured here. I mean, it's helpful because in this case, there's clear distinction that there's a researcher and a specific, let's say, person speaking. But this is all you need. Now, on the interview structure itself, and this is a very frequently recurring question. It's better if you try and follow a certain practice. However, and I hope Martin will confirm this, because when we tried this out with him not knowing this, I was recording our conversation, and we were kind of going all over the place because I was really keen to understand, his 15-year experience, how TheyDo came about. So we kind of wandered all over the place. And then, Martin, what do you think? It came out and it looked like a journey, or no?
It did, and it actually captured the jokes we did as well, which was hilarious. It's like I was blown away. Seriously.
There we go. I hope that definitely answers the question. And I think, here we go. That allowed us to switch back to this. So this is a bit of a different experience because now you already have a journey that you mapped, right? So there's quite a lot of content there. And because we try to follow the principle where you are in the driver's seat, before you jump in and get in all the muck of it, trying to figure out where everything is, we actually introduced this step, which we called Insight Review. So you can easily see every single nugget that was extracted from a second conversation. And again, here I can see, multiple quotes and it's captured as a needs. Here, it's only one. Here, another one. Here, maybe there's a bunch more, right? So I can do that here. And critically, if I see that something is not working, or because I'm the expert here, I already know the content, I even think, look, this probably also belongs to another persona, I can actually click and make those changes even here. So while we're updating the journey, I also have full control here to assign personas, maybe bulk select and say, no, maybe this is not a need, maybe this is job to be done, right? And complete all those actions and only then make that final choice to bring that onto a journey. And as you can see, we already see 2 experience lines here and quite a lot of content, to be fair, which is, I guess, exactly what we want.
So some more questions on the sources. Matthew asks, how about CSV files from VOC survey verbatims, voice of customer surveys? Can we upload those?
Very good question. So as a file format, CSV currently is not supported. However, there is a workaround which we ourselves play around with. You can easily select a column of those comments, let's say, or answers that you care about the most. And you can just, open up Journey and paste this in, right? So every single line or every single row in that column will be an individual line. So AI will read this and consider it individual and separately. I wouldn't recommend choosing something like workshop sticky notes or research reports or even support tickets. We're definitely looking into adding support for those surveys as soon as we can. Yeah.
So part of the rollout here is like basically any unstructured data that is coming directly from customers, you want to be able to feed into your journeys. Just to give an example, also like the way we are using it internally is that we obviously have a buying journey of people going through the different stages of the buying experience, becoming a customer, and then we have interactions with them. And if we record, let's say, a sales call or a discovery call, those inputs are feeding into our source journeys, which are giving us raw insights from all these different conversations. And then we can start inspecting the whole in our go-to-market journey. So we're introducing this new way of collecting data in a journey format everyone can understand. But as Justas has shown, this HBO journey is just part of the larger maybe journey framework, where this is just a part in the purchase stage where you're adding HBO to your subscription. So you can really start to play around with like, where is the data flowing in? Ready for a few more questions while we are at it, Justas, on the technical aspects of it?
Sure.
So can I upload multiple conversations with a singular persona? In other words, we may talk to 3 to 4 skeptical Theos in a research project. Is that allowed? Another question from Matt.
I mean, absolutely. So as I've said, you can easily do that, bring in one by one, name the same exact persona. I do feel there's a hint there that how do you then differentiate which particular, let's say, interview this might have come from? And that kind of hints at a feature that I hope my team's developers will not kill me, because I then can switch over to the development modes and show you a snippet of what's coming. But you can actually trace it back. And how can we do that? Well, if I go back here, actually mapped a similar journey before the webinar with the same sources. So here you can see, first thing is how many quotes in this case are linked to that particular insight. And if I click, you can see that all those 3 quotes are represented here as a number 3. But what's cooler and what I really mean is that these quotes came from an interview with a tech-savvy persona, right? You could name it however you want. You can name it as a company or a specific person. It's up to you, though preferably not as a person. And if you click here, well, here we go. We can go back to the original transcript that has been used, and you can actually see where those quotes came from. So you can choose that same persona, but each individual transcript you bring, it is linked to those insights. So you can easily trace it back. And then if you see that, oh, if this insight came from that particular transcript, then I have the full context where and why it came about.
Right. And highlighting will be part of that.
And of course, we will highlight as well which section, right?
Yeah, we're still working on that, because as I've said, this is development environments. For those who don't know, that's like in progress. But this is coming in upcoming days, to be honest, not even weeks.
I have a few questions on language coming from different people. Can we take about like the actual language that we're using? Because I think it's a good point to bring up and talk about. Is like Mike asks, have you given messy auto transcription a shot? For instance, we rely on look back for our interviews with Dutch users. Their auto transcriptions are quite poor and messy. And then I think above here, Catalina also asked, like, for instance, specifically, does it work in Spanish? Like, how do we treat different languages?
Well, I love that question, and it has 2 bits to it. So the one is, I love mentioning that I come from a country of only 3 million speakers, and it's Lithuania, with our own, weird Baltic language. And this handles Lithuanian really well. So Spanish, in all honesty, or Dutch or German or French, we've tried all of them. What you will get is the original source quotes will stay intact, as you can see here, in the way they were captured in that language. So if it's Spanish, it's Spanish. Now, the summary, so to speak, the title of the insight here, that will still come out in English. And for one particular reason, still, we've noticed that especially for multinational companies, it's important to have one single consistent language where all the information is represented. Otherwise, it becomes really messy. We have talked to some of our customers who have, various different markets. It's great if you can speak those languages, but sometimes, even the characters, Cyrillic versus, Latin, they differ so much that it's super hard, to keep the consistency. So we kind of made that choice currently to keep it in English as the summary while retaining the original quotes. But of course, we're looking into a way for you to set your own preferred language. So if you, let's say, if you're a Dutch company working only in Netherlands, that's totally fine. You would be able to kind of say, no, please return me. It's only in Dutch, and that's it.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm going to switch gears a bit and get a little bit more juicy, because I think having this is a beautiful and powerful tool at our fingertips, but it's also just the start. I mean, the time savings, let me pull up the question from Vicky. They're like, I can see all the juicy text, and can you share some specific insights that you would work on with the time saved via this example? And before you answer that, like, there's also another question from Jonas. Have you been able to utilize that feedback loop? And if so, is it applied on a global or per account scope? I'm not sure exactly what you mean with this, Jonas, but more like, okay, now we have this and we have all these insights. Like, what are we going to do with this? So
Yeah.
maybe we can bring it to the next stage. And I also said, like in the beginning, we want to hint to where this is leading. For all of you who've never used TheyDo before, as like journey mapping is just the first step. It should be available to everyone, but it's all about managing, aligning, getting that journey to a state where you can align the rest of the team to say like, hey, what are we going to do about this problem? What are we going to do about this opportunity? And do we agree? So that is the next stage, but like, how are we thinking about this? So we saved all this time doing the groundwork. Like, what are we going to spend time on? Like, how are we?
And I mean, look, I also get a lot of questions from customers I'm helping, or we are helping. It's like, okay, we're creating a lot of source journeys, but it's a lot of source data we have now collected, and we have a great everything structure. But how are we going to navigate all this stuff, right? So how are we going to really spot what truly matters out of all these new juicy source files that we have nested into, say, a master journey? What to do about it?
Well, I'll share our own perspective in our own team. So because again of the wonderful customers we've had, because you saw Jochem showed us all, all those stages we went through. We brought more and more people, along with us on that journey, and they shared a lot of feedback, what can be improved. So everything you see here, everything on the screen, is based on that feedback, right? So how do we go from that particular insight to this particular feature, so to speak? That's our own loop, and we have it because we take that feedback and we turn that into an opportunity which we can then assess, technically speaking. So as far as where we can then spend our time, well, I know my again, this is where my engineers will kill me, because we've only finished this like I think 2 hours ago, and this is work in progress. As I mentioned, it might not work fully well, but because we have so much content here, like we have 3 distinct needs from 2 distinct personas, all I have to do is to say, well, what are those opportunities there in those insights? Maybe there's something that we, could reveal by using AI. So in this case, that's exactly what we're doing. I've just clicked on a particular step, which is talking about seeking entertainment in the discovery phase. As I've said, there are a couple of, needs captured here. And hopefully, in just a couple of seconds, you will see the outcome of it. And this is where probably most of the time should be spent afterwards, trying to understand what are the possible opportunities, which we've just revealed, that we should work on, right? So in this case, how might we offer high definition streaming without extra charges? I am sure I saw that coming up here. And in this case, as you can see, there's a linked insight. I prefer high definition streaming without extra charges, and I can unpack this and see where that came from a particular quote. So that's an opportunity I now can evaluate and try to understand whether or not we should pursue. And that's exactly how we, ourselves created that feedback loop, where we are creating those opportunities. We are evaluating, how beneficial, a particular problem, a solution to a particular problem could be. But first we do the opportunity assessment. So in this case, to us, I feel this is a significant game changer, because now we can go all the way from raw transcripts in opportunities, and as you saw, mere minutes.
And these opportunities will then be accepted in the opportunity prioritization, rituals, ways of working that you have, not only from this journey, but be collectively evaluated in the process. I mean, we can do a whole webinar on that. I don't think that is the time to go into that rabbit hole today, but to go from insight to opportunity through journeys. Like if we look at like the design thinking process, the double diamond process, the research process, ultimately that's what you want to get at, like actionable opportunities that are defined by the customer solving a business problem that actually give us an indication of where to start innovating, where to start building solutions, where to ship different types of content to. One thing, we talked about how this works. It's all fantastic and I love it, but there's also some concerns. So maybe we will address one that Pamela asked, that I know a lot of people have asked you and Martin and everyone who is trying this. A lot of learning and understanding it in a team can happen during the mapping of a journey. So there is value of the process itself, right? And by no means we're saying like ditch all of that. But the question is, has this been addressed during feedback? Like, what have you heard? What are we learning from our customers? Can you share?
I mean, I can begin with one observation that I hear from many customers is that the journey mapping process itself is also so important for some or most actually researchers, is the ritual of interpretation, understanding, going deep into something, and the mapping is literally like digesting the information so you can start working with it. Some users are afraid of that. With a few mouse clicks, you lose that. You lose the connection with the data and its importance. Also the refinement and also reviewing it and validating it with others and so forth. I think that is something that shouldn't go away. I think it's very important to trust this as well. I think what we also seeing is that when you use AI, Journey AI, for the first time, it's very different from when you use it the 20th time or the 30th time, because you get the understanding that you can start trusting this. And of course, you start then to treat the journeys in a different way. So the contextual picture you paint with many different journeys, giving you the summary, is also a process that you get when you do maybe one journey rather than 30. So it is something you have to find your own balance to figure out how to work with. But the truth in what you get here, what you see, and what it summarizes is as good as, or maybe even better than you would do it manually.
Yeah, and only to add to that, there's one thing that I really loved hearing from one of our customers, because they really started adopting this significantly. Definitely in one of our, I would say, top 3, top 5 customers who use Journey AI. They've established a principle of 4 eyes, as they call it. And that means that there's the person doing the initial mapping by using Journey AI, but then there's always a second person then reviewing that content. And now consider what it would take if you would be doing it manually, right? That principle might fall apart because you would ask two people to essentially try and do it, individually or afterwards together, going back to the contents, summarizing, reviewing it. Now it's as simple as I brought in the content, AI helped me, synthesize it. I have all the tools at my disposal to review it and approve it. And then there might be a second person who might come in and review it again. It's so fast to do it that not only do you then build up the trust to the AI, you actually help more people faster digest the new information that is coming in, which might, otherwise take you weeks, if not months, to sift through. Right. So there's a benefit, and our customers are trying to establish these, principles themselves, which is what I found super exciting.
Switching gears a bit, I'm going to take over your screen because what you're actually saying, and I think this is the other thing that we realized, is that if you really have nothing out there and you have a professional team of designers, of researchers figuring it out, there's a lot of value that they are creating that understanding together. But once things become more clear, let's say you have a journey framework, right? You have a customer life cycle, your macro journey is the purchase journey, and a micro journey is buying a phone online, just as we saw, and then you're going to add HBO maybe to the mix. What you then actually allow for, maybe the initial mapping is done, and it can still be like, there's fantastic tools in TheyDo that allow you to do this. That can still be a valuable exercise. Maybe you even want to do it at the whiteboard first and then bring it into a structured format. But once it's there, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. And this is like what we are actually trying to do, is say like, these journey maps, to Martin's earlier point, died a beautiful death. They were hanging on the wall. They were like created once for this project. And then people got the insights and we went to work, and on Monday it was business as usual. Now that changes. It's like maybe the initial mapping, there are some people really caring about what they learn, but to add and continue grooming and learning new insights and understanding what is new in these journeys, that is what we call now source journeys. There may be like the grappling hooks for you to dump in your data, to dump in your research, to bring more qualitative content into it, whether it's the expert from your VOC program, whether it's the expert from your MPS qualitative responses, whether it's a new interview transcript, whether it's a sales call, can start feeding into the machine. And all of a sudden you get a different relationship with journeys. And I think that was the most surprising to me, at least, is like, we're changing the notion how journeys can be used in building up this collective understanding.
Well, not only that, I mean, what happens is like we can start to use qual data in a quant kind of way, right? That is what's happening. I mean, if you have a massively generated quant data about, say, a website performance or conversion rates or what have you, that is pulled in from many different locations and it's sort of visualized in Power BI, you don't question it's, there. And right now we can do the same thing with qual data. You can do that at mass. And it's literally like the question will arise, is this based on 1,000 interviews or just 10? How frequently has it been updated? Yesterday. Oh, great. Then it's fresh. We know. That is where we're heading.
I saw some questions around the quantitative data, like connected to Looker or different kind of data visualization tools. This is taking the qualitative inputs from the user. The next time we're going to be joined here, maybe with a different team, we're going to talk about like how to operationalize your business metrics. But I want to keep it to Journey AI today. We said it's coming soon. It's rolling out to all workspaces. You have access. You can use it. You can activate it in your settings. Like, not everyone wants to roll it out to the whole company. So there's some control to just add it. But what we said, like, you never have to start a journey from scratch. We want you to skip the grunt work, map, and link. And I think those pieces are really, really well in place now. So now it's time to build. So I saw some questions about the vision. And for the last 5 minutes of today, I want to talk about that. Martin, Justas, want you to chime in as well to really understand like how we're thinking about building this out. And I'll take some questions from the audience, and maybe we can wrap it up in a nice way of where we're going and where we think this is going. So Felipe, I hope I say it right, asked like, what about video? Like, I used to record my interviews so that I can go back to the insights later, which is time consuming. Like, have you considered that? How we're thinking about it?
Of course, of course, we have considered it. Multimodality, as it's called, is a significant area for us to explore. I mean, exactly, you saw text-based, information. Video can have text as an output if it's a conversation. I mean, it comes from audio, but looking into what is being shown on the screen, or maybe trying to discern some insights from observations, observing what's happening there. I would still say that's a bit early stage to implement it as well as we can do it with text, but it's definitely coming. So I think. It's my personal opinion. Jochem, Martin might disagree, but I would say there's an advantage to be a bit later and follow the trend lines. I think Apple is doing this really well, because you have the late mover advantage. You can learn from others' mistakes, how others are implementing this. So we're happily observing, all the applications there, seeing where they fail first and foremost before we actually roll this out to our customers, right? So I think there's benefit in not rushing too fast with untested, untried technology yet.
I mean, one thing that is so important is that what we strive towards, which is part of the vision as well, as Jochem mentioned it, like make the journey the most powerful business tool there is. Why is that? Is because we know that when you have data you can trust, both quant and qual, in a contextual kind of way, that tells a story that you can go really, really deep into or look at it from a big picture, it allows you to do very, very advanced decisions, right? You can do business critical decisions on top of journeys. And therefore, you need to make sure that whatever the data you have in there is true, is right, that you can trust simply. So therefore, we really put a lot of effort into making sure that whatever you create with AI or manually, you will be able to, with very, very big confidence, say, this is validated, you can trust this data, and therefore the decision we make. So it would be a disaster would we sort of hack something together because be the front runner of the new technology and get it wrong, and then someone makes a multi-million decision based on that type of data in journey management. That's a failure, and we don't allow that.
I like that. That's a good perspective. And it's also clear to see, like, there's many tools that can capture the digital journey, right? So learning from your events or understanding the different metrics that you track and saying that is the journey. What we're actually trying to do here is like get the full story, get the whole journey in place. Maybe there's parts that you can actually measure. So yes, there is a lot of data going into TheyDo. Again, not a topic for today, but like building your metrics, putting them into your journeys, linking them up to them. Like that's a whole area that we're going to cover soon. But in a webinar, but what actually it does, it gives you the full understanding of every journey, beginning, end, where it begins, where it ends, and how it links into the bigger picture. And I think having that is a great starting point to then start to understand your data in a different way. So I'll take that as a almost ending. I'll take one more question, and then I want to wrap up and everyone, but I think it sets up everything for the next stage that we're on. As a question from Charlie. He says, by the way, great work, guys. Love this. Thank you, Charlie. We're doing great. Thank you for supporting us. How do you deal with prioritization, not just of pain points, but meta themes that may exist for sharing with large teams? And one thing I'll say to set us up for this question is also, like, we just looked at one journey today. But if you have hundreds of journeys in your framework, like, you don't want the same insight exist many, many times over, which is one of the big pain points that is currently like hell for teams that are doing the whiteboard kind of post-it thing. Like everything exists like 20 times and no one knows what's really right or wrong. So that is one way to put it. But like maybe to wrap up and to look into the future, how do we think about prioritization and being able to funnel that into work backlogs for action, tracking delivery, and helping people to do this basically at scale? And I think that the question revolves around AI. That's a topic today. So Martin, Justas, I want to hear from you both, and then I'm going to say thank you for today. Justas, you want to go first?
You go first.
Yes, I think you nailed it there. I mean, for us, it's all about scale and what Martin mentioned, how qual can become quant, technically speaking. So what we envision here and helping prioritize is if you have an open pipeline of constantly real-time fed in unstructured data, what we really want to do is to help you find those patterns and notify you if something appears, something important changes, or maybe there's an opportunity emerging there that you might have otherwise haven't noticed. It's all because we believe in a greenfield journey as a concept, right? It's that data that is bubbling up constantly. So journey AI is just one small step to get to that point, which in turn will result in better prioritization because you will have the full extent of the customer experience coming in from massive amounts of customer support calls, from massive amounts of survey results, which is why I love the question about structured, voice of customer surveys, massive amounts from social media, doing sentimental analysis there as well. All of that fed in. That's what we're zooming in on, just to help prioritize better. Currently, we are still in progress of figuring that thing out fully. But as Jochem mentioned, the fact alone that you can build out that hierarchy and roll up that content and see, as you just saw, how many times a particular thing, is coming up, how many quotes even, a particular insight has, is already a significant indicator what we heard from our customers, that will already move the needle forward for them, because that's not something they can do now even, right? So for us, the path is very clear. It's all about bringing in massive amounts of data as fast as possible, so those journeys would essentially update themselves while keeping you in the driver's seat to always review, refine, and then prioritize based on recurrency, based on frequency, based on depth of particular needs and pains.
I love that. Martin, can you speak to the business perspective of this, how this plays out in your mind in terms of prioritizing and doing this at scale?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, it's not only about, getting the data in, but also interpreting it in the right way, as Justas also said. And I think what is very important is, maybe we didn't show it in action today in the demo, but an opportunity is based on many different things. It can be quant and qual, right? So it can also be anchored to quant data, for instance, business performance indicators that you can bring in from metrics. And those then you can use to validate to what extent will this opportunity generate impact for the customer, but also for us as a business. And those will be then, or are already available in TheyDo to give you sort of criteria for prioritization. And once you say prioritize that this opportunity is very, very, great at driving value for both, you then can see that in the context of all other opportunities. And what's really, really cool is that you can filter on everything. So you can go and say, from a horizontal perspective, which these opportunities are, right? They are deriving from many different touch points and insights across a context. You can then say, this specific opportunity is essential for marketing, for instance. Then the marketing team goes in and says, I want to find all the opportunities that are important to us being marketing representatives in our company. And we are focusing on fixing, for instance, reach within market A. You can filter very quickly on all those specific elements or attributes, and then TheyDo will surface those specific opportunities that have the highest priority, making, the findability very, very easy. And that is already available today. But additionally to what I want to make what I'm really excited about with AI is also that AI will also help you to know that there are no duplicates. So if there is one insight that is very, very similar to something you have created, or if there's another journey that exists somewhere in the labyrinth or in the sort of database, you will be aware of this. So you do not have to worry that, am I creating something that already exists, or is there a deviation of this elsewhere, and so forth. You will be informed and keep up to speed with what already exists. So everyone is truly collaborating. That is something we are so keen on. It's like, don't treat the journey, it's mine and no one else's. It is actually a platform that you can collaborate around, and the more the merrier.
On that note, thank you guys for joining us at home, at work, wherever you are. Martin, Justas, this was phenomenal. Thank you. There were a lot of comments also on this was a great, solid webinar. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. For people who have listened and they're like, I want to try this out, or I have feedback, or I'm trying it and I love it, or this is not working, keep feeding us. Go to theydo.com/AI, create an account, start testing it out and build it. For our customers who have been tuning in, keep giving the feedback that you are doing. Give us ideas, give us your recommendations on what's not working or what is working. The feedback on the journey generation itself is super important for us to keep fine-tuning it, to keep the quality high. But with that, Journey AI is out there. It is the start of another journey in TheyDo's land. And I want to thank you for joining us today, and see you next time, where we'll dig into metrics, linking it to quantitative business data and how prioritization at scale really works. So see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.